All right now, Nate, my dear friend, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. Like I've
Good.
been I've been wanting to have this episode for a long time. And,
hmm
it's just like, like one of my favorite things about good podcasts across the board, regardless of what like the medium is, regardless of what like the specific affinity is. I like when there's podcasts where they do different things within that sphere. Do you know what I'm saying? So if it's like, I don't know, if it was like a jujitsu podcast where sometimes it's like technique specific, this is how you do it, or other times they interview like top dogs, or you know what I'm saying? I like
Yeah.
different things within the same. And tonight is like it's really like a classroom setting almost, but hopefully way more fun. Second time we've had this man on, Mr. Ken Duke, who most people refer to appropriately so as the bass fishing historian, kind of like just this fact based. And the thing that always impresses me the most, I remember when I first started hearing Ken Duke on Bass Talk Live with Mr. Matty Pang Pang. One of the things that always impressed me about Ken is his ability to like correlate stuff from like whenever and like kind of draw it into stuff that's happening now. He'll say, oh,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
this is unique, but actually back when blah, 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 like that was always the coolest thing to me. And so tonight we're going to have Ken on, and what we're going to talk about is bass fishing history, competitive tackle, just the sport, the culture as a whole. I'm ready to be less dumb. What about you, Nate?
Yeah, no, this guy, Ken's got all the knowledge for sure. So yeah, I'm stoked to have him on. I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we'll get into this as well, but even just we'll do an early plug. We'll throw the little ticker on the screen. You can literally just look up Ken Duke fishing, and there's just this treasure trove of articles he's written, things he's done, podcasts he's been on. But right now, he's running the podcast Bass After Dark, and it's a really unique podcast in the fishing space. For one, he has multiple like absolute top level people on every episode, and for two, he just tackles really unique topics. Like it could be something as simple as how to throw a specific style of bait, rig, lure, and then the next one is like, did forward facing sonar ruin bass fishing, or has bass fishing gone past its heyday, or how bad really is delayed mortality, which of course is the idea of after you release fish at a derby, do they swim off later on and die? Whatever. And it's just good. It's just a really good info. So if you've never listened to it, Bass After Dark, it's dope. Would you agree, Nate?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the great ones he does are the like contrasting point of views.
Yeah.
Like that's super engaging. Where one guy believes one way, another a different. Two, three, four guests on at a time. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. I can't remember which one it was the other day. What were they even talking about? Spinnerbait fishing, maybe? And they had Jason Christie and I think it was Jimmy Houston. I can't
Jimmy
remember,
Houston, yeah.
but they're all just making fun of Jimmy Houston. They're like, well, I got to talk all I can or he's going to take up all the time. And like everybody, like it was so cool. It was so authentic and like just buddies jabbing each other. It was dope. And like, yeah, he's had people on who don't agree with each other, like vehemently. But yeah, it's dope. So before we get too far into that, we'll bring him on in just a second. Just a reminder, as far as social media goes, you can find us, Tackle and Tacos, at Tackle and Tacos on Instagram and Facebook, and then of course YouTube. And we are still running that YouTube 1,000-person subscriber giveaway that we're doing. So basically, once we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which maybe you care, maybe you don't, is a pretty big number. Not like we're not Mr. Beast, but I mean, it's a big number in the way that like once you hit 1,000 on YouTube, it opens doors to be plugged into their algorithm more. You can monetize stuff because I'm trying to retire. You know what I'm saying? Off, off our videos. Just kidding. And when we hit 1,000, everybody who has subscribed to us and then shared the giveaway post that we've made a couple times, we're going to put all those names in a hat. You're going to get a pair of Leupold Bridger sunglasses, a 20-quart Grizzly Cooler with a custom made like step on it, like a wood grain step with our logo in it, a Denali baitcast rod, which you can pick out at denalifishing.com. Scott said you could do that, the owner, a Shimano reel, and then the tackle box is going to be filled with lures, like completely filled, and that's going to be shipped to your door for free, and the person's going to be picked at random. Nate, what have you stuffed in that box so far?
Oh man, I've got all kinds of goodies. I've got some Mega Bass, what is it, the X Pop or X Prop,
Yeah, man.
yeah, some top water baits. I've got jackhammers and baby jacks, and just I mean the list goes on and on. Like I've got I've got some juice in that box for sure.
I'm only putting one lure in. It's this top water from like 1950 that I just found on my desk. You are lucky if this gets shipped to your door, boy. That's another thing I want to talk to Ken about is tackle stuff. You know, because I feel like so much of fishing, like something's new and then it goes away and then it kind of comes back and people forget about how to fish a worm or just whatever. And I feel like that's another kind of history thing that's sort of interesting. And you know, I'd also like to ask him like, what happened to the helicopter lure, the greatest piece of fish catching equipment ever created, and now you can't even find the dang thing. You know,
Right?
kind of sad. So Nate, hit us up with the sponsors, and then we'll go ahead and bring Professor Duke onto the scene.
Yeah, sponsors, of course, presented by Grizzly Coolers. Thanks, Grizzly, greatest drinkware coolers out there. Code WCB Whiskey Charlie Bravo, as Jordan always says, for 15% off. GrizzlyCoolers.com.
Yeah.
Like you said, Leupold Optics, Performance Eyewear. What is it? Working Class Bowhunter. You know, for hosting us with the podcast network. We got Moldy's Marine, Denali Fishing. And of course, Northland Insurance Services. So
that's it. Good. That's good. I kind of just threw it at you without even like prepping you on it. That was well done, sir.
I try my best.
That was good. Again, we're honored to be a part of all the sponsor kind of team partnerships we have. None of these folks did we like reach out to them like, hey, sponsor us. It all just kind of came together the way it's supposed to. And there's other teams and other products and parts and whatever that we would work with, but right now I couldn't be happier with the sponsors we have. I don't think it's true, but I read one time that Brett Favre only endorsed endorsed things that he was already using. That was like already something that was in his, like, you know, in his craw. But they started putting out like commercials for those like electronic ear hair trimmers. And I don't know, maybe he did actually use it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but that's kind of how I want to operate. I don't want to just be like, yeah, man, you should only use Jigga Whopper spinner baits because they're the best, and I've never even thrown one before or whatever. You know, like I want to actually believe in the stuff we're talking about. You know, I just feel like you see it too often in the fishing industry. I was just watching a video. I won't even. I should say who it is. I'll say who it is, but I won't. But it's on Waypoint TV. There was a Strike King something or other, whatever video series, and this dude was fishing out in California, and they were skipping wacky rigged ochos, which is a good bait, like no hate on the ocho whatsoever, which is essentially just a Cinco with like flat sides, kind of like a stop sign if you looked at it. So they call it the ocho. And this dude said ocho 773,000 times. I was like, dude, stop effing saying ocho. Just say skipping this worm under the dock. I mean, he would get a bite, like a good bite, like California, like I think it was Clear Lake. He'd get a good bite. He'd be like, oh, they like that ocho. I'm like, stop saying, dude, geez. Like it was just so annoying. And I don't want to be like that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to like be so sponsory and whatever that it's like annoying and fake. And I don't know. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything. I was just thinking out loud, but so let's bring him in. So this fella, he probably knows more. I don't even know if it's probably, I would say does, just flat out knows more about bass fishing, competitive bass fishing than probably anyone on earth. I would say he is the sport's of unofficial, but kind of official historian, statistician. He's done everything. He's written for every article for every like publication you can imagine. You'll see him with BASS stuff from whenever. You'll see him with NPFL, which is sadly, in my opinion, the most slept on professional league out there. And it's so freaking good. It's just like the least dramatic, no forward facing sonar, dudes out there just fishing their butts off. Brad Fuller, the dude who runs it, just seems like the coolest dude. Luke Duncan does a great job. It's such a good league. You'll see him doing stuff with them. Ken's just a stud. So really excited, really honored to bring in our guest tonight as we talk about bass fishing history. Bring to the stage Mr. Ken Duke. Hey,
gentlemen. That's an introduction I'm sure I can never live up to, Jordan, but thank you. And this is my first chance to be on your show with Nate, who I think last time had another commitment. He had to have lunch or something, so he didn't want to come on with me. So Nate, it's an honor to be on with you, sir.
No, Ken, we appreciate having you for sure, and it's my honor, of course. I don't remember what I was doing, but it was definitely not near as important as you. So
Yeah, that's
No, it's something more important than being on the show with me, which honestly puts you in good company with people like my wife, who who would skip on that opportunity as well. But it's good to see you both.
Yeah, we're stoked, buddy. We appreciate you jumping on for sure. Anytime I've ever reached out to you, Ken, you've been super gracious, super accommodating, and I really appreciate that, especially at your level. I don't think there's too many things that you haven't done. People,
I'm 5'11". That's my level.
5'11".
I don't cheat and try to claim the extra inch. I'm 5'11". That's it.
Yeah, you were talking earlier. You're not like a giant, sports stat guy, but
I'm a sports stat guy. I mean,
hockey.
No, I don't do hockey.
Yeah,
because I'm a Floridian, so and it's not like Tampa's got a great hockey team now, but growing up there was no hockey in Florida, so we got to if you expect intelligent commentary about hockey, you're not going to get it from me for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, especially in the NFL, like there's dudes like Matthew Golden, who's a wide receiver for the Packers. I'm a huge fan of his because he went to Texas, and I'm a Texas guy as well. And they have him on the stat line at like 6'1". I'm like, if that dude's 5'10", then I'm like 6'4", which is fine. I get it, but like, come on, dude, don't be throwing extra whatever on there just to make him sound more like physically impressive.
Well, if you're a Packers guy, you might be disappointed in me, but I went to University of Georgia, and Herschel Walker was in my class, believe it or not.
That's amazing.
So him win the Heisman, win a national championship. My favorite player in the NFL right now has got to be Matthew Stafford, though, quarterback for the Rams. He went to Georgia.
I'm all right with that.
Seems like a class guy.
He does. Yeah. Keeps on playing. Like, not just playing, but playing well. Like, he's
really high level. Yeah.
But like MVP level, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yes,
right?
MVP, Hall of Fame level. I want to say.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he gets in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I don't think he could possibly miss the Hall of Fame at this point. For a while, people would say that, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. But like, yeah, he just keeps ripping out there, man.
Stuck in Detroit for so long, though, that hurts.
That is tough for sure. But he's not there now, and Detroit's turning the corner, and
Yeah, I'd love to see Detroit get the Super Bowl. I don't know if it's going to happen. Those windows open and close so quickly, and you almost have to wonder, has Detroit's window started to close?
Yeah, I feel like it kind of has. It was like 2 years ago, like nobody wanted to see them, and then the Packers all over the place last year, and we beat them twice, and like, I don't know, but anyway, okay, so let's talk fishing.
This almost turned into NFL today.
Yeah, well, I mean, we do that all day long, but I want so badly. I said this in the pre-meeting with you. I remember being in a hip hop, like live band hip hop band back in the day, and I would talk to kids at shows, and they'd say, "Oh, I'm into rap, whatever," and I'm like, "Yeah, who are you into?" And they would say people, and I'd say, "Oh, you ever listen to blah blah blah?" And it wasn't always like super old school people, but people who were foundational, I guess you could say, in the genre and the culture of hip hop, and they would look at me like, "Who?" And I have that same conversation sometimes with people about bass fishing. And that's not, in my opinion, it's not judgy. It's not like, oh, you're less than me. But I think if you're really going to care about a culture, you should know the backstory. You should know some of the history, some of the foundation, And so what I wanted to bring you in tonight for, Ken, was just to walk us through however you want to do it. Give us some background on bass fishing. Give us some underrated moments, I don't know, which things do you see that have changed the most from like the beginning of, bass fishing, competitive, all that stuff? I don't know where you want to start. I know that's a pretty broad beginning.
Yeah, you're giving me an 8-lane road to go down right now, Jordan. But I'll try to pick a lane a little bit here. Well, but we can go all over the place. It's wherever you guys want to take it. Yeah, I too share your disappointment, disgust, whatever word you want to attach to it, of people who don't respect the history of what it is they purport to support and maybe even try to make a living at. I find it remarkably disappointing at the very least. And sometimes it actually makes me angry. There was an Elite Series Pro a couple years ago, one of the young guys, one of those young 3-foot tall guys out there who won an event. And if you've ever been around him, I'm not exaggerating much. And somebody asked him, and it might have been asked on my show, Bass After Dark, if he was familiar with Ray Scott, and he did not know who Ray Scott was. I'm thinking, I can't punch you hard enough.
But I'm going to try.
But I'm going to give it a shot.
Right.
No, at that moment, he was lucky that we do the show remotely just like we're doing this show now. Nate's where he is, you're where you are, I'm in Orlando. But yeah, had he been in the same room with me, he'd have been in a world of trouble.
Yeah,
I guess I feel that's disrespectful on some level.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that.
I'm not saying you got to have a PhD in the history of what it is you care about, but if you don't have some appreciation of where your what you claim to be your passion, what you claim to be the thing that gets you up out of bed in the morning, then I have a hard time having a conversation with you or taking you seriously as an advocate for your thing.
Yep, that's really well put. I agree.
My wife is a little bit into Barbies, and it was her dream to go to a Barbie convention. And there is such a thing, an annual Barbie convention in the U.S. every year. And so we went one time. It was in Jacksonville, not too far from where I live. And I was fascinated by these people. Anybody who's that passionate about something can get me fired up.
Yeah, sure.
I will feed off that passion and that interest. And I don't know much about Barbie, but I love being around those people who are taking it so seriously, who were dressed like Barbie, who had made the outfits. I thought, this is amazing. On some level, I'm thinking, why can't bass fishing be more like this?
Yeah.
And I'm sincere about that. I can feed off the passion other people have for something, even without having a personal interest in it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I was actually just reading an old, I don't know which actually, I think it was when Easton Fothergill won the Classic. I think there was a advertisement in there, and I think it was like kind of written by James Hall, like an advertisement, but an actual article, one of those deals. And I think they were pushing. I don't know if you've seen that series on the Bass Pro Shop, the Cast or whatever, like the historical views on BAF.
I've seen a few of those. Yeah.
I haven't watched all of them, but they were talking specifically about, in this little article, they were talking specifically about the history of lures and how back in the day, if you were fishing a derby, there was no YouTube. Like, how do I use this bait or how do I find that bait? And there was no internet. So it wasn't like you could find the most, the closest Shimano dealer or whatever, whatever then. But, it's like, I always thought that was an interesting concept of like what it would have been like to fish back then when you didn't have access to just this unending encyclopedia of knowledge, and you had to try and figure out bodies of water. Or
what a great question. And I can go a little ways toward answering that in a way that maybe you wouldn't anticipate. And that is that they didn't have blister packs and things like that then.
Right.
A lot of lures came in boxes, and I'm sorry that all of them are now out of my reach, but I've got lots of them here in my incredibly messy office. And inside the box, there was most often, there you go. There's a Johnson Silver Minnow. Yeah. Nate, I've got that box, that bait. And inside a lot of those boxes like that, there would be like an information sheet. Like on one side would be like a catalog of their other baits. And on one side would be the instructions on how to fish that bait.
Here, look at this. I don't know if you can see this, Ken. I'm only jumping in because so this is an old Bill Norman crankbait.
Yeah.
And behind which I feel like you'd call that a square bill. Behind that, there's that exact thing. There's a little pamphlet on how to use it, how to get more of them, send away for a catalog. And then on this one, how to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. But
a lot of that too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But exactly, the internet would have been better. Video would have been better. You'd learn more faster that way. But even in the early days, or sometime on the back of a pack in some of those middle years, I'll call the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there'd be instructions on there, and that would give you some insight into how the bait could be fished, or when the bait should be fished, or what kind of gear it should be thrown on. And so people weren't entirely in the dark grasping for some tiny shred of information. The companies knew it was in their best interest to inform them so they'd be successful and want to buy more.
Yeah, that's smart. That's really smart, actually. I never thought of that kind of. But I mean, you kind of had to do what you had to do. There was no internet. There was no, like I said, I mean, it's a never-ending encyclopedia to the good and the bad. YouTube and whatever, finding how to do stuff, how to use stuff. Because some people fish for 5 minutes and think they're experts and share totally wrong nonsense. But then there's also really good channels where people know what they're talking about.
There are, and when I was a kid starting fishing, it wasn't nearly as complicated. There weren't nearly as many things out there for it. Sure. I often wonder if I was 10 years old now And my first introduction to bass, and nobody in my family except my maternal grandfather, he fished, but he fly fished.
Sure.
And I lived in Miami at the time, fishing canals, and so he knew enough to help me get started, but not a lot more. And he wasn't really into the bass stuff because he lived in North Alabama. But anyway, I often wonder, would I be into fishing now if my first entry into bass fishing had been to walk into a Bass Pro Shops? Because that would have been wildly intimidating.
Yeah.
Especially if I didn't have a parent or somebody
Right.
to take me by the hand and say, hey, we're going to go get you a spinning outfit and some line and some stick worms.
Yeah.
And you're going to wacky rig and catch a bunch of fish.
Ocho.
There you go. Sorry, Ocho. I blew the lead in. But if without that, I wonder how people get started. And I think that actually ties in quite a bit with why we have been so challenged to grow the sport over the last 30 years, 35 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would you say is that reason? Because it does seem, I mean, I hear it from other podcasts, Ike and different guys who say that like the glory days are, I guess the top of the hill glory days are behind us. People aren't getting paid like they used to. Sponsorships aren't as loyal as they used to be, and blah, blah, blah. Bass fishing numbers, besides the spike for COVID, which kind of precipitously fell off the map. Why is that? Like, why are we not as engaged in it as a culture as we used to be? I'd be
misleading everybody if I said it was any one thing, but I think it's a lot of things. One thing is that fishing has become really expensive.
Yeah.
Fishing has become inordinately complicated. And there are obviously a lot of alternatives to fishing that you don't have to go out and get sweaty and wet and muddy, and you can sit inside your living room in the air conditioner and do these other things. But I think it's all those things. A stat that really hits home with me is about 90% of all the people who will buy a fishing license in 2026 started fishing before they were 12 years old. And if you think about the programs for getting people interested in fishing, none of them are targeting preteens.
Yeah.
None of them. Yeah. They're the high school programs, the college program. They're the money pits.
Oh, sure.
Is what they are. And they're built on a house of cards. The college fishing programs are built on a house of cards.
Wow.
That I don't know if you guys are familiar with how it all works, but the schools that are really good at college fishing are mostly these small Christian schools.
Yeah.
And their attendance in the last 8-10 years has really started to fall off. And so what they've done is they've decided, hey, we can pull in these people who really just want to fish. And if our tuition is $40,000 over the course of their 4-year education, we'll knock $10,000 off. We'll say it's a scholarship. They can fish on our team, which is not an NCAA regulated sport. I mean, my God, if fishing were an NCAA regulated sport, you would not see all these Auburn and other jerseys with all these brands on them. That would not be allowed. My God, those people would be in prison.
Yeah, true.
It's not a sport. It's a club, is what it is. And that's truly the terminology. They're clubs. But anyway, those things are just being propped up to keep attendance and enrollments up. And that's why you don't see the University of Georgia or the University of Florida or Texas or many of those schools having the same level of program in terms of their success, because they're not offering scholarships because they don't have to.
Oh, geez. Huh.
It's our Lord and Savior Christ School of Bass Fishing that's offering the scholarship.
I never thought of that. I have considered,
like,
why aren't the big schools out here just crushing fools?
They're not giving away scholarships.
Yeah, like again, we were just talking about Matthew Golden. Like he's a diehard bass head. Like in his off time, those boys in Texas fish like crazy. Why aren't they crushing NCAA college?
Yeah,
Yeah, but you're right. They don't call it NCAA. They call it college bass fishing.
Exactly. It's not an NCAA sport. It never will be an NCAA sport. Because there are enough NCAA sports that don't make money. They don't need bass fishing to pile on.
Yeah.
Well, we all know there are exactly 2 sports at the college, maybe 3, 2 sports at the college level that make money, and that's football and basketball, and maybe some places hockey makes money.
Sure.
But none of the others make any money. They're all money pits.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're all losing money like crazy.
Yeah. Bass fishing.
Yeah, bass fishing. They found a way to make a little money off bass fishing in a weird way.
Huh. Yeah, that's true. That's wild, dude. I never thought of it like that.
It is. Yeah, that's pretty crazy thought.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense.
It does.
Oh yeah. And I hate to say it, but I have a lot of people will ask me some question about bass fishing or the industry and stuff like that. And I hate to do it, but it always comes back to following the money. Every single time.
Yeah.
It's looking at it through some financial perspective.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much like the definition of why some of these high school events are having 350 boats or 400 boats in them. Would you say?
There's something to that. I think it's another vicious cycle there. You have a lot of kids who are participating in those events because mom and dad have money and they bought them a boat, or they're in mom and dad's boat more likely. And they're also saying, hey, if I can do really well in these high school tournaments, I can get a scholarship to go to this school over here, this small Christian college.
Mm.
And mom and dad are saying, well, that'd be great. Yeah, take the boat, go. Hope you win.
Right. Yeah.
Here's $100 for some ochos. Right back to Ocho just for you, Jordan.
That was really good.
I brought it back to Ocho.
That was really good.
What's that?
That was a pro move. You've been in the industry.
I've got no pro moves. But yeah, I think, Nate, to your point, I think that's why participation at that level is so high. Because people are now seeing it, and the leagues. By the leagues, I'm talking about primarily BASS and MLF, because they have these college programs,
right?
Yeah.
And tournaments. They're selling these young people a dream that, at least until Forward Facing Sonar, didn't really exist. Well, you're going to be the next Kevin Van Dam. Well, bullshit. You're going to be the next Kevin Van Dam.
Sure.
You get your ass kicked and your money taken.
Yeah.
And you're going to be stocking stuff at Walmart here, because this is not a great way to make a living. Being a bass pro is at least some evidence that you're bad at math. But now with Forward Facing Sonar, where the young people are dominating, because they're more adept at picking up this technology, maybe you can be the next guy.
Yeah, that's profound. That's really good. I was just going to ask you something about Forward Facing Sonar,
which I don't know much about.
What's your stance on it overall? Do you think it is at this point the game changer of game changers as far as like the culture of competitive bass fishing? Because people, for a while, when it first started getting hated and block it and all the idiot box or whatever he calls it and all that, and for what it's worth, man, like I love live scope in my boat, but when Randy Blockett talks, 2 things in my brain happen. One, it kind of makes me sad because this dude is a legendary angler, helped design one of the best baits to ever be put out there, the Vision 110. But at the same time, though, like I see what he's saying and the whatever, but it makes me sad that he's going to be remembered for being a crotchety old man at this point, and that just makes me sad.
Master of clickbait. Master.
Titles are insane, dude. His titles are insane, and then it's just a shot like right here, just talking for 25 minutes, like just straight on his grill.
Are you fishing this bait wrong?
Yeah. Oh, he is clickbait master. But I remember when Forward Facing Sonar first started kind of taking off, and then started getting hate and whatever. A lot of the time, people would be like, "Yeah, but the same thing happened with side imaging." But I'm like, it really didn't, not to this level. So do you think Forward Facing is, like, speaking historically from your perspective, which is far more refined than mine, do you think it is the game-changing piece of technology in bass fishing?
Well, it certainly is over the last 50 years. But I'll say this about Forward Facing, if you don't mind me going a little bit astray of the question. I think that I think that I was not against forward-facing sonar at first, because I think it's stupid to be against technology.
Yeah.
I generally like technology. I like what it does. I like seeing where it can take us, what we can learn. And I think that forward-facing sonar has done some of that. And you guys know this as well as anybody. There's a population of fish out there that we never really knew about. And that's worth something to know that. But then two things turned me against forward-facing sonar and made me think I'd like to see it banned. One is I keep pretty extensive stats on the leagues, especially NPFL. That's where my heart is. The NPFL is a fabulous league run by the best people I know in the sport.
Awesome.
But I also, because I worked for a long time at BASS, I still keep track of the Elite Series stats. And I can tell you that historically, for the first 17 or so years of the Elite Series, the average Elite Series pro brought in 4.5 fish to the scales each day. If you couldn't bring 4.5 fish to the scales each day, you were not really competitive. You were not a threat to qualify for the Classic or anything like that. That was the threshold.
Okay.
And the very best at bringing 5 fish to the scales each day was Aaron Martins. Great friend of mine, wonderful guy, miss him all the time. Aaron averaged 4.815 fish to the scales each day. It may not sound like a big difference between 4.5, but 4.815 each day is a massive gap between the average guy and Aaron. And that was why Aaron was winning AOYs and tournaments and stuff like that. He just consistently brought more fish to the scales. Well, 2 years ago, the Elite Series as a 100+ angler entity averaged better than Aaron Martins.
Wow.
That doesn't happen without forward-facing sonar, because you cannot tell me that all those guys in the Elite Series are better than Aaron Martins. They are not.
They're not. No,
they're not.
Yeah,
they're not. It's not close. They are not. But their technology is that good, and they've learned it so well.
Yeah.
The second thing that really bothers me, so that bothered me. That told me numerically, objectively, that forward-facing sonar is having a serious impact on the sport. And I didn't like that, because I felt like anytime you have technology making that big a difference, you're taking that human factor out to the same degree.
Sure. Yeah.
But the real thing that bothers me about forward-facing sonar is what are called the rules of fair chase. Do either of you guys hunt?
Yeah, we both do.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Then you're familiar with the rules of fair chase. They were started about 150 years ago by Theodore Roosevelt and some other hunters. And basically they say things like, it's not fair chase to kill an animal behind a high fence. It's not fair chase to kill an animal that's been drugged, that's tied to a tree.
Yeah.
There's even a rule of fair chase, and these are developed, like I said, 150 years ago, that says you can't use technology to create an unfair advantage. And that's pretty nebulous. That's pretty loose.
Sure.
But one example they've added specifically to that in the last 20 years was you can't use a drone. You can't fly your drone over that deer,
right,
or moose or elk or whatever it is, to locate him and then go and kill him. That is against the rules of fair chase. If you do it, A, you're almost certainly breaking the law in your state, and B, you're not going to be able to enter that animal in the record book, which is what a lot of big game hunters want to do, in addition to eat the thing. What is forward-facing sonar but an underwater drone turned horizontal? That, to me, violates the principles of fair chase. And I think we don't have rules of fair chase formally in the world of fishing, but I think we need them. I've drafted some, and I want to get it out there, because we're not going to get forward-facing sonar restricted on a biological or harvest basis. Because think about it this way: The guys who have spent all that money on all that technology, they're not keeping those fish and eating them.
Right.
They're throwing them right back, usually moments after they catch them. So they're not harvesting or killing that many fish. But what they are doing is, or what forward-facing sonar is doing, is it's having an impact on crappie populations, on spoonbill populations, on sturgeon populations, on muskie populations.
Yeah.
I know a guy who's a muskie guide, and he tells me that it used to be if he could put his clients on a couple of muskies a week,
yeah,
that was a great week. And you guys know that the muskie is a fish of 10,000 casts. Well, now he has to catch 10 or 12 muskies a day.
That's
And they're
insane.
not a fish of 10,000 casts. They're a fish of one cast when you find them.
Yeah.
When you shine that beam on them, oh, there he is. He's 40 feet over here. Oh, got him. Like that.
Mm.
They're hyper aggressive. And some of those fish are dying because they'll wear themselves out.
Yeah.
On a hot summer day, water temperature 85 degrees, that fish is perhaps dead.
Yep.
So anyway, that's my soapbox on forward-facing sonar.
Oh, that was really good, man. Yeah, that was and objective. I felt like it was really well stated. So does that have anything to do, or were you already kind of on board with jumping in with the NPFL, or did that help push you into that?
Honestly, it had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I was working with the NPFL before
You were.
Brad Fuller and the league decided to ban forward-facing sonar. And when Brad shared with me, he said, "Hey, I'm thinking about banning forward-facing sonar." I thought, "Oh, are you sure that's a good move?"
Yeah.
I wasn't against forward-facing sonar at that point.
Okay.
And by the way, the ban on forward-facing sonar on the NPFL has nothing to do with ethics, which is my problem with forward-facing sonar. I think it's unethical.
Uh-huh.
The entire reason to ban forward-facing sonar in the NPFL was a marketing move.
Sure.
The league needed a differentiation point.
Yeah, that DVP.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think we had all by then decided that, obviously there's a disconnect between forward-facing sonar and a lot of the audience.
Oh, definitely.
Because, if you guys are watching some live coverage of a tournament and all you're doing is looking at some 4-foot-tall teenager stare at a screen at his feet.
That the whole time. Yeah.
That's mind-numbing. And he's making a cast every 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, that is awful.
Mind-numbing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't understand it, because why don't you just put the camera on somebody else?
Yeah. Ask Nate when we're watching like SS live events. I'm like, dude, this is painful. Like this is tough. Like, and I'm not anti it, but watching a tournament, doing exactly what you're saying, chasing the fish around with your trolling motor, spinning rod in hand with a jig head and minnow, because it's the only thing you're allowed to throw on live scope apparently. And then, like you said, making a cast every couple minutes. It's like, oh my gosh. And I remember when Luke Duncan, before he got the NPFL gig, I think he was trying to kind of play the middle road a little bit, but his argument was, yeah, but they're catching more fish now than they used to, so that's more entertaining. And I was like, but the gaps between it are mind-numbingly boring. Like,
yeah, and they are catching more fish. There's no doubt about that, but they're catching them kind of all the same way.
Yeah, it's super. Do you think? Let me ask you this, Ken, and you don't have to answer this if it's going to get you in hot water. Although
I'll answer any question you have, Jordan.
You've never been one. Is the Major League Fishing with the 1 period on, 2 periods off, red, white, and blue, jump back and forth, tic-tac-toe, whatever, their version of it, and the elites with like the coin flip on the events, are those cop-outs to the forward-facing sonar dilemma, or what do you think?
I don't think they're cop-outs. I think that, and I still have a lot of people at those leagues that I like, that I consider friends of mine, both anglers and people at the companies. I work with all the leagues. I work with Bass, FLW, MLF, and MPFL now. I don't think they're cop-outs. I think that the MLF version, the Bass Pro Tour version, where, as you mentioned, 2 periods, no forward-facing, 1 period with it, I think that finally made sense of their 3-period day. Now it kind of makes sense that they've broken it up this way.
Sure.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Kind of confusing.
Yeah. And by the way, when I say I don't think we should have forward-facing sonar, I don't think we should have forward-facing sonar in sport fishing, period.
Not just competitive.
Not just competitive. I just think it violates the principles of fair chase too much. Do I think it's marvelous technology? Absolutely. Do I think it's taught us a lot about fish? I think it's taught us quite a bit. Do I think maybe it has a place in the hands of DNRs and organizations like that? Sure. But now we all know why NPFL, BASS, and MLF restricted the use of forward-facing sonar, and that was they're trying to increase their audience.
Yeah.
Eyeballs and ad dollars. Once again, going to follow the money. Eyeballs and ad dollars. Yeah. They may tell you it's different. If they do tell you it's different than that, they are lying. 100% lying.
Yeah.
So the MLF thing makes sense to me. The BASS thing makes less sense to me.
Okay.
Because, well, I can't remember which ones had the coin flip and are using it, which ones aren't. I would have to tune in and watch, which means that maybe as much as 50% of the time, or I think it was 5 with it, 4 without.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be pleased with what I'm watching. Yeah. And that was, I think they were just trying to be different as well. And it's going to be really interesting. What they are going to have is a clearer perspective on the numbers than either NPFL, which is banded outright, or MLF, which has the simple process of we'll just go to a guy who's not using it this period. There's beauty and simplicity and elegance in that. Right. That's pretty savvy if you're going to keep it around. And if those ad dollars and sponsorship dollars from the Humminbirds, the Lowrances, and the Garmins matter to you. And NPFL didn't have any of those sponsors, so they were able to eliminate the technology and not suffer any financial loss. In fact, the first sponsor they signed up after eliminating forward-facing sonar was Humminbird. Humminbird jumped on board right away.
Huh, that's interesting.
And said, hey, now we've got a league where our 360 mega imaging, our Mega 360 is the top technology here. And so I counted them just the other day. I think there's about 40 some guys in the NPFL who, even though they may not be sponsored by Humminbird, they've got 360 on their boat.
Sure.
So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, which is what I do.
Perfect.
I think that BASS is going to very simply be able to look at their numbers at the end of the year and say, okay, these 4 tournaments without forward facing, they did this number, and these 5 tournaments with it, they averaged this number. And I would not be surprised if they don't make another adjustment in a year or two based on what they learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
for sure.
Like for a long time, their rules were solid. And then it seemed, I don't know for how long now, a decade now, it seems like every year there's this change, there's that change, the pre-fishing, the pre-fishing, the practice routes, the rule. It just seems like it's just changing all the time. It's like, yeah, I get it. I can respect the idea of like trying to whittle it down and get it just right. But at the same time, though, it's hard to keep up with, you know, and MLF has done the same thing, but MLF is also significantly younger. Yeah. And one of the things I really love about working with NPFL is NPFL rules have been by and large steady and easy to understand. And we try to speak with great transparency. And the only big change in the NPFL rules has been with regard to forward-facing sonar. I feel like Bass and MLF change their rules, no kidding, to some degree every year. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of fine-tuning to go on, but there's also a lot of value in not confusing your audience. And I thought MLF went a little bit crazy when, a squirrel bass is 2 pounds at this tournament. Oh, at this tournament, it's 1.5 pounds. Oh, at this tournament, it's 3 pounds.
Yeah.
Dear God, stop.
Yeah, I agree. And the period shotgun and the elimination and the qualifying. And then they did 5 fish limit. Then they didn't do 5 fish limit. And it was kind of, absolutely. Yeah.
I kept hoping the shotgun round would involve firearms. I really did. I thought that would be cool.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Nope. Never spun that way, but yeah.
Ken Cloth turns on Jacob Wheeler. No.
Man. Can we be real? Okay, let's use that as a transition piece.
We haven't been real.
No,
Nate, we've been real.
How good is Jacob Wheeler? And from your opinion, your perspective, how good is Jacob Wheeler?
He's really good. He's a generational talent.
He's a freak. Do you every great basketball player, oh, he's the next MJ. Every great quarterback, oh, he's the next Dan Marino. He's the next whatever. Do you say the words Jacob Wheeler and KBD in the same sentence?
In the same sense, I think that they were each the best of their generation, perhaps. I think that Jacob, great as he is, still has a pretty significant way to go before he can reach Kevin Van Dam and Kevin's 7 AOYs, 4 Bassmaster Classics, and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Jacob Wheeler, who is barely in his mid 30s, has a long way to go. And a lot of people don't seem to remember that Kevin really didn't hit his stride until he was about Jacob Wheeler's age. Kevin would have turned 35 in 1992, the year after he won his first classic. Mm-hmm. He won all his classics after 34 years old. He won all but a couple of his AOYs after 36 years old. I want to see if Jacob Wheeler can keep it going. I'm calling Kevin the GOAT until Jacob Wheeler or somebody else really steps it up. Hey, maybe it's 23-year-old Drew Gill.
Dude, he's a freak. Gosh,
Dude,
he's so good.
Oh, I got to tell y'all something. I'm sorry I'm not trying to take it to Bass After Dark here, but
do it.
Drew Gill's been on our show 3 times.
Yeah.
Each time he was either in the middle of a Bass Pro Tour tournament or an MLF tournament of some kind. He was either in the middle of it or it started the next day. And he never finished lower than first in any of those tournaments that he came on our show.
What?
One of those tournaments he tied for first and lost the tiebreaker, but otherwise he's won every tournament he was fishing when he's been on our show.
Wow.
And I think I've got Drew convinced that we're good luck.
You must be. I should know this, but I don't think I do. Have you had Seth Fighter on your show, Ken?
We have not. We've had a couple of times when we want to reach out to Seth, and there's always I think we did have Seth Fighter on our show. That's embarrassing, Jordan.
I'm sorry. I was bringing that up because he's like
with that trick question.
Yeah, he's just insanely superstitious. And so you could, if he wasn't yet, you could say, well, every time Drew Gill comes on, he wins. He'd probably be on your show tomorrow.
That's a good thought. Yeah.
He's superstitious.
We have 3, sometimes more guests on each show, and we're on about show 118 now. Awesome. So that means well over 300 guests. And sometimes I can't remember who's been on or something like that. If you ask me who was on, y'all were talking about a spinnerbait show we did recently where we had Jimmy Houston, Hank Parker, and Jason Christie.
That's who it was.
And I remember Parker, that only a couple of weeks ago, and those are, for my money, the 3 best spinnerbait anglers ever, maybe. And if you were to ask me, hey, who was on with Nate? I'd say, oh man, I remember Nate was on the show, but I can't remember who was on with him.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's real life. Also, I don't know if you're going to remember this, Ken, or if you ever saw it. There was a video that I used to absolutely love with Jimmy Houston where he was talking about, what the heck was it? I don't think it was real magic, but it might have been. But this stuff like a silicone spray, spray on spinnerbaits, and he like had this one line that he said that always stuck in my brain because it was so funny. Like the timing of it, it was like he was trying to be comedic, but I don't think he was. But at the end of this whole pitch, because he was a pretty good like businessman with his sponsors and his pitches.
Absolutely. Yeah,
he did this whole long diatribe on this. I can't remember if it was real magic, but we'll just say that it was. And he goes, plus it solves that age-old problem, spinnerbait skirts. And then he sprayed it on some spinnerbait skirts, and it was the funniest shit in the world. I swear I've watched just that end line like 30 times. Solve that age-old problem, spinnerbait skirts, and he sprayed it on. It just made me think of that with the spinner. But you bet you couldn't have.
Hey, you were about to send me to the garage looking for some real magic.
Oh God, I do.
You quote that about every time we're on the boat. Oh, spinnerbait skirts.
No problem. Spinnerbait skirts, and he sprays it on there. All right, let's transition. Let's shift over, Ken, because I really do want to talk history. And I think it was you, however many degrees removed, because I didn't know you back then, but I think it was you, maybe on BTL or something. But you referenced a book called "History of the Black Bass" by, was it Kenshel?
Well, there's The Book of the Black Bass was the first book ever written about bass and bass fishing in 1881 by James Alexander Henshaw, M.D.,
Yeah, that's
a Cincinnati physician. Yeah.
I've read it cover to cover, which is
Good
interesting
for you.
because it's awesome, but the vernacular back then is slightly different than how we speak now.
It can be dense. There are parts of it that are dense, but
It's not a page
it's all
turn.
there.
Burning
No, it's
amazing, but it's awesome though. It's really interesting. Get it on eBay even now, like hardcover old versions for $15. It's not even that expensive. I would definitely recommend anybody go grab you a copy. I got mine on eBay. But anywho, I was so intrigued by it, and I wondered, the question I wanted to hopefully use as sort of a jump off point, Ken, is was he the first one to start sort of documenting black bass, and where does it come in where bass became like the fish for fishing, like in America?
Oh, tough question, or it involves kind of a long answer, Jordan, so I apologize in advance.
Excited.
Well, the guys who were first into kind of documenting bass were the naturalists, the guys who were interested in nature, whether it be fish or fauna or plants. And a lot of those guys in the early days were French. They came across the ocean and they decided to document all this stuff. And the first people to really notice the bass and write about it was probably William Bartram, who was a Philadelphia wealthy guy, naturalist. He traveled down to Georgia and Florida, and he saw some of the Native Americans there catching bass using what amounted to a jig on the end of a pole. And they would just dabble it in the water until the fish would come up and grab it, and they would yank them up on the bank. And of course, they were eating them, which is what we should still do to a great degree. But then there are arguments that some people even before that, maybe as early as the 17th century, before there was a United States, were chronicling some of these fish. And so all that had been going on, and they were naming the fish, and there'd be a guy who had found him up in Michigan who'd call him this, and there was another guy who found him in Florida who called him that, and a lot of confusion as to what they had all found. But by about the early 1800s, you start to get some real consensus, and there's better communication among scientists, and there's better naming conventions and stuff like that. And so that a lot of that stuff starts to get nailed down. And that's when you start getting the Micropterus, which means small fin, because a French guy was looking at a slightly deformed bass, and the Salmoides, which means salmon-like, but a bass isn't particularly salmon-like. And anyway, this is progressing, and these names are changing even now. 2 years ago, the fish we all call the largemouth bass, and was known scientifically as Micropterus salmoides, got its name changed to Micropterus nigricans. And the fish we all knew as the Florida bass, Micropterus salmoides floridanus, is now Micropterus salmoides. And so science doesn't stop.
Right.
And not only does science not slow down, it speeds up as we have better technology and genetic testing and things like that. So we are still trying to narrow down how many bass species there are. The number currently, I think, is 14, but it's likely to be 18 within a few years. And B, Henshaw was kind of the first guy to pull it all together and to put it in what I would call a consumer book.
Okay, sure. That's a good way to say it.
Earlier, it was all scientific stuff. Henshaw put it in a consumer book. There were a lot of outdoor magazines, dozens and dozens of outdoor magazines in the 1850s and 60s. But he wrote the first book in 1881. There it is.
Yeah, my cover looks like the one on the left a little bit, not the super old school one. Mine has like the gold leaf, whatever, but it's still really old and really cool.
Yeah, and of course he put that out in July of 1881. In 1981, BASS under Ray Scott put out a kind of a replica version, which is what most people have, and which you can pick up, like you say, off eBay for $5 or $10.
Yeah.
And it's a great reader copy. You don't have to spend, say, 100, 200 up to get one that was a first edition and all like that. I've got a few copies that I treasure. A couple of them were signed by Henshaw. I've got somewhere around here. I've got some of Henshaw's physician's letterhead, where he's written somebody a letter about fishing.
Wow.
Yeah, these are treasures to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And what Henshaw did, apart from write these first two books, he was a medical doctor, but he kind of gave up his career in medicine and decided he wanted to be more of an ichthyologist, a fish scientist. And so he was the first guy to raise bass in captivity. He worked for the U.S. Fish Commission for many years. He designed the seminal, the principal bass fishing rod of the 19th century. Wow. He designed some of the seminal flies for bass of the 19th century. He was and remains the most important person, in my opinion, in bass fishing history.
Wow, that's a statement.
Because back in his time, and he died in the mid 1920s, but back in his time, the bass was not even a second-class fish. It was worse than that.
Yeah.
The trout was king because trout live in beautiful places, and the bass was, something you fish for if you didn't have trout and you couldn't do any better. But what Henshaw did that's amazing, and I have it, I keep it near me here. Maybe I can even find it. But what Henshaw did that I think is so wildly impressive was he, in his 1881 book, which has the most famous quote in the history of bass fishing, he said, inch for inch and pound for pound, the gamest fish that swims. And he was trying to compare it and say that it held up to trout and anything else you could name. And he predicted the rise of the bass and the fall of the trout in the 20th century.
Crazy. And
he predicted it on everything he predicted came true. He said these rivers are going to become polluted. They're going to be dammed. And when you dam them, you kill the trout habitat and you make bass habitat. I think a lot of people don't think about it this way, but there is more bass fishing water today than there has ever been before.
Sure, yeah.
Well, you can't say that about deer habitat or even trout habitat, but you can certainly say it about bass habitat.
Wow.
But it wasn't until after Henshaw passed away in about 1925 that the bass became the king of American sport fish. And that happened, gradually through the 30s, 40s, 50s, because the Depression hit. And one of the ways that the government, led by Franklin Roosevelt, put people back to work was he said, okay, we're going to bring electricity to America through hydroelectric dams. We're going to have better flood control. We can't have our people being washed away when big rains come and the Mississippi tears through all those states. And as a side benefit, we're going to have recreation and we're going to have food fish. And so through the 30s, 40s, 50s, if you look at most of your favorite reservoirs around the country, they were built between the 30s and maybe 1970.
Okay, sure.
And that was all about electrification, power production, flood control. But the bass, of all species, the bass benefited the most from it.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, people don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
And people wonder why. And that's also when there were the peak number of anglers, was maybe into the early 80s. And since then, not only have we not had the same percentage of bass anglers out there, but we're losing when you compare us to population growth. The number of bass anglers is going down, and the number of licensed anglers who identify as bass anglers has been going down every year they do the study, which is every 5 years, for the last 65 years.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, this is the stuff I wanted to hear you just rattle off. This is amazing. I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
I'm hard to stop, Jordan.
No, I love it. I don't want. I was waiting for
Perfect.
going. I didn't. Honestly, I didn't want you to. So let's segue a little bit into competitive bass fishing.
Yes, sir.
And you know, I don't have.
Oh, don't get me started.
No, I want to get you started. I don't have. You do. But I think I remember when I first started fishing tournaments is when I lived in Austin, Texas, and this was 05, 07. I can't remember. It was it's to me it's bananas when somebody says to me like, oh yeah, you know, like the 90s, I'm like, oh yeah, man, like 10-15 years ago, and the 90s was like, you know, 30 years ago, and I just feel super old or something. But anyway,
you get to be as old as me,
man. It's weird. Time does not slow down for anybody. It's just a big freaking yeah, it really does, dude.
It does.
Anywho, so I think it was 05, 07 or something. And I got into tournament fishing. And I think anybody who has the right sort of setting, the right context to start tournament fishing, where it's more fun than it is competitive, but there is a competitive element and you're around the right people and have good waters and whatever. And I started going with the Austin Christian Bass Club, was the first club I got into. And I remember I went with a super old dude who had a Ranger. And I think we went probably like
to get a scholarship.
Yeah. I went to
Nice.
College of Jesus Christ of the Highland Reservoir.
Yeah.
And, anywho, so I remember he took me on his Ranger, and I think we went like 50, which in my brain was like absolutely like pee myself scary fast, you know, like it was just such a funny. And he let me use his green Shimano Corrado, and
those things are bulletproof.
all of a sudden I could use a bait caster. I wasn't using my Bill Dance Quantum, and I could actually chuck something other than a 3/4 ounce spinner bait, you know. And my circumstances were just so good.
Shout out to my friend Bill.
Yeah,
Love you, Bill.
No hate to Bill Dance, but it was
he's awesome.
Yeah, that reel was terrible. Anywho, so, there's the reason nobody's fishing quantum. And any sort of. But anyway, yeah, my circumstances were just really good for it. And then I got really into it. And then I started reading about Ray Scott, and I started reading about 10 fish tournaments where they brought them all back on stringers. And just, it was even back in 2007, the initial days of bass derbies, which in my, you know, maybe lame knowledge of it is not that old of a sport, but has changed immensely since its genesis.
Has it?
In my, I mean, as far as like killing the fish, the number of fish, technology to keep it alive, I don't know, whatever. But maybe it has. Maybe I'm messing up here by saying.
No, you're not. You've got a good grip on it. It's just I have a counterpunching personality that you guys should know about. Whenever somebody says ABC, there's a tendency of me to say XYZ. But let me go through some of that, because I think there have been some significant big changes in bass fishing tournaments and some things that have really not changed at all. Awesome. Big changes in bass tournaments. Yeah, in 1972, the Bass Casters Association, followed 5 days later by BASS and Ray Scott, instituted catch and release. And that was a nice advancement because, like you said, before that, fish were kept on stringers.
Yeah.
They were hauled in, they were dead, they were cleaned, and usually given to a charity. Almost invariably given to a charity.
Okay.
But back then, the limits were 15 a day.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, not many people had a limit. A limit was not an everyday occurrence back in the day. The fishing wasn't as good. The lakes were not as well managed. And those glory days were not so glorious. The limit was 15. And then when Ray and BASS and these other organizations decided, wow, these are kind of ugly fish kills. This is a bad optic. This is a bad message we're sending to this local community. Dropped it to 10. And then 7. And then, by the time the live wells came in, it was time to drop it to 7, because a live well can handle 7 a lot better than it can handle 10 or 15. And then a technique called flipping came along. And it's amazing how sometimes techniques will change everything around them.
Sure.
Flipping started using a 7.5 foot rod, whereas before that, most rods were 5.5 or 6 feet long.
Yeah, little pistol grips.
Pistol grips, still a wonderful thing. But so that forced boat companies to make rod lockers that could handle a 7.5 foot rod. Decks got bigger. Decks got higher because of flipping, because you didn't want this much gunnel
Yeah.
to have to get that bait over.
Yeah.
Then they decided, 12-inch fish, that's not very impressive. Let's go to 14 and we'll drop the creel limit to 5. That didn't last very long, but that put some bass pros out of business who were really good at catching 7 12-inch fish, but they weren't so good at catching 5 14-inch fish. And that was really the closest thing I can think of to what forward-facing sonar has done in terms of changing who the stars are. It went from a finesse game where you needed to catch a lot of fish to a flipping game where you needed 5 good ones. And the flipping era lasted from, say, the late 70s or the flipping came on the national tour in 1975, but not many guys were doing it until about 1980. And from 1980 until, I'll say, 2020, bass fishing was a flipping game.
Yeah.
Not every tournament obviously was won by a guy flipping, but I mean, it dominated. Flipping, pitching dominated. Now forward-facing sonar dominates. But so some of those things have changed the game. And then you saw big changes. Awesome. Oh, by the way, the first year that everybody kind of went to 5 fish on the national tournament level was in the early 90s. It was like 1991. 5 fish has not been the magic number forever. It was 7 for a long time.
Okay.
A long time, until the early 90s, really. But that got changed. Live wells got bigger. Lakes got better managed, less polluted. And a lot of that is due to the work of people like Ray Scott and BASS. Things have changed. Electronics got better. More guys were catching limits. That was another reason to drop the creel limit and put a little less pressure on them in live wells. Guys were catching a lot more fish. Guys were turning it into a real career. I would say that before the mid 80s or so, certainly before 1980, only a handful of guys could put on their tax return that they were a bass pro without laughing right out loud. Because there was no way to make a living at it. And that's why you saw guys like Bill Dance and Hank Parker leave the competitive world to just focus on TV. Because you couldn't, the only reason the guys like Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin kept going in tournaments, maybe apart from the fact that they enjoyed the competition, was because the tournament was a good way to promote their TV show.
Sure.
But so those things have changed. I think the glory days of the sport in terms of sponsorships and all that on a professional level, probably the late 80s, early 90s. One reason I'll say for that was there was a lot more participation in the sport than there is today. Back then, they were selling between 35 and 50,000 bass boats, fiberglass boats, motors, trailers. This year, they'll sell maybe 7,000. I'm talking about nationally, maybe 7,000.
Wow.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a number.
It's a number. It's a sad number.
Yeah, geez.
And when you were getting into the sport, Jordan, it was below 5,000. It was below 5,000 in that 2008, 2009 era because the economy was tanking and people didn't have the money to throw at a big fiberglass bass boat. Now, those are some of the big changes. A lot of them are not good, as you can tell. Here's one that's really not good if you're talking about professional bass fishing. In 1967, Ray Scott had his first tournament. I could argue that it was the first modern bass tournament. It was called the All-American. It was on Beaver Lake in Arkansas. It was in June 1967. The entry fee was $100. First place, along with a trip to Acapulco for 2 and some knickknacks, first place was $2,000. 20 to 1. $100 entry fee, $2,000 first prize. The Elite Series had a tournament that ended yesterday. Their entry fees are about $5,000 or a little more, or were. They've shuffled them around.
Yeah.
But at that level, the entry fee is about $5,000 a pop. What is first place?
100.
100. What's that ratio? 20-1.
Oh, weird.
Not weird. Sad.
Yeah, I never thought of it like
Sad.
that. Yeah, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
People
That's
say,
crazy.
People ask me, why don't we have $1 million paydays? You can have $1 million payday all day long. Just charge $50,000 entry fee. All day long. Get 100 guys to pay $50,000 entry fee. We'll give the winner $1 million.
Wow.
But the ratio on the payday
It stayed.
has not changed at all.
Wow.
If anything, it's gotten a little worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard Ike talking about it wasn't a payday thing, Ken. And I don't want to interrupt you at all. I apologize.
No. Go. I'm a big Ike fan.
Yeah,
great friend.
Man, he's honestly, at this point, people who don't like Ike, I'm like suspect of them as human beings. And I get these abrasive and I get these whatever, but he's also so altruistic. He cares about people. He cares about kids. He stays around and signs every autograph that's needed. And he gets I think half the reason people hate on him is because he gets so pumped. And I'm like, why would you? What do you fish like you're falling asleep? You just fish with a stoic expression on your face. Like, I don't want you in my. That's boring, dude. F that. But anywho, I think it was Ike who was talking about. I listen to a lot of bass fishing podcasts, but I think it was him who was referencing. I think it was Denny Brower. Speaking of flipping and stuff, but who in his prime, like early 2000s, I think he was running Evinrude or something, and how back then. There was not as much money in this. I can't remember how he worded it, but basically Evinrude would give him something absurd, like 10 to 12 225s a year. Just this absolutely ludicrous number of motors, and he would keep 1, 2, whatever, have a backup, then he would just sell the rest, which they were fully aware of. It was almost like income for him. And now he was saying nowadays, with all the eyes and all the social media and all the engagement and all the endemic sponsors, dudes are getting a motor, maybe 2 if they're top dogs, whatever. And it's wild how things shifted. I've
seen talk to pros in very recent years, last few years, where they're telling me that the deal they can get from a boat manufacturer is not significantly better than what any one of us could walk off the street and get.
Holy moly.
A lot of memo deals out there. And for anybody who's not familiar with a memo deal, it means they say, Nate, here's your boat, your motor, your trailer.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out, have a good season out there. At the end of the year, we will buy it. You can sell it and you're going to owe us X dollars. So what you're going to do is you're going to sell it for more than that, make a little money on the deal, but that's all you're getting. I can tell you that a lot of guys, most everybody's got a jack plate on their bass boat. Mm-hmm. A ton of pros, well-known pros, household names among those of us who follow the sport. They'll get 2 jack plates a year. One they put on their boat, the other they sell. Yep. That's their jack plate company payment.
Yeah. Wow. That's so
it's
crazy.
Not good. Yeah. And the pros all want to complain. I say the pros, the guys who are out there trying to make a living at it, which is really not that many. No. They're complaining about the guys who are wearing a jersey and working the booth at a show like the Classic Expo or the Red Crest or something like that. And there are a lot of guys there who are willing to do that, who are willing to just work for the scraps of it. Mm-hmm. But the pros all think that they're taking their money, that their life would be so much better if not for these other guys. And I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your stand? How do you feel about the sort of shift as it relates to sponsorships, the culture of whatever fishing with influencers versus pros?
Yeah, I think it's natural that the manufacturers, the sponsors, are looking to see where their best investment is. And most bass pros have done a really, really remarkably poor job of building their followings.
Yeah.
They think that finishing 14th in this tournament is terrific and somebody should write them a check immediately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Versus getting out there and trying to build a real fan base. I admire the guys who have worked to build their brands, whether you're a Matt Steffen or Edwin Evers. My God, Edwin Evers' show has production values as good as any television show. Those guys are killing it and doing a great job. And for decades, I tried to convince bass pros. I said, man, leave the jersey at home, get in your truck, drive to a local public pond, take out 2 rods, have somebody video you fishing that little pond, and talk everybody through what you're doing. That's how you're going to build an audience. But basically nobody's ever done that.
Yeah, you're ahead of your time. I'm in marketing, what I do for a living. I'm a head of marketing for a local home builder here. And that's one thing we've found that works really well for us, is similar to what you're saying, but is the not every post or video for our homes needs to be like the polished $700,000 home. Some people want to see behind the scenes and how the framing works and why the foundation's important, you know, like the relatable, normal stuff, not the super fancy whatever. And I think you're spot on. And I think if more anglers did do that, yeah, I think they would have more followers, because it's just so much more relatable. Everybody can go to their local pond with 2 rods.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of guys have really missed the boat on that. You know, you look at what the Googans did. The Googans built a massive audience by going out there and being interrupted by Karens and by having little shouting matches with people on, you know, suburb ponds and stuff like that. And while I didn't always appreciate their methods and I didn't learn anything from them, I saw that they could be entertaining and they would have a following. And I think that way too many bass pros missed that opportunity and screwed up, you know, just screwed up. But I'll also say this, and it's still an issue, but it's maybe not as bad an issue as it was 25 years ago. But a lot of bass pros, the majority of bass pros are lazy. And they think it's a full day's work if they walk to the mailbox and look for a check.
Dang. Yeah.
I will not name names.
No, you don't need to. Yeah, that's real talk. Yeah, that's really real talk. Yeah, and I mean, even gone so far as to lean into. I've even seen dudes on video, you know, who do a good job with video and capturing content, and almost play the victim of like, oh, I'm so worn out, you know, 3 days in a row fishing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, do you know how many people would give their left toe to be, or their left foot to be in your position, you know, to be worn out from 3 days of fishing when they're working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 5 days a week for their family or whatever?
That's exactly right. But even more than that, you know, in the eyes of the average fan, those guys are, you know, the joke is living the dream, you know?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've bumped into a bass pro and he's pumping gas at 2 o'clock in the morning and it's been a long day and he's got to get home and I'll say, how's it going, man? He says, oh, you know, living the dream.
Yeah.
And I get it, but you better make it look like you're living the dream. When you think about the guys who have really made it big in the sport, I'm not talking about the guy who's won a couple of tournaments in the last year or two, but the guys who have really made it big and the guys who are as close to household names as we have in our sport, they make it look fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike Iaconelli, sometimes Mike makes it look like torture, but usually Mike makes it look like fun.
Yeah, he does.
And that resonates with people. That's what they want. And the people who can't do that or don't do that are among other things, just stupid.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, that's
yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I remember when, kind of presupposition here, now we're going in circles, but speaking of forward facing sonar, I don't know that he ever came out and said it flat out, but I feel like a big chunk of why Zona left BASS commentating was because he was just sick of looking at people watching screens, you know. But I thought one of the most magnetic parts about Zona as a human was just how he made everything sound fun. Didn't take it too, like, he did it. It was a cool sweet spot where he did a good job, knew his stuff, but also didn't take it too seriously, if that makes any sense. Like the amalgam of killing it but not taking yourself to, you know what I'm saying? And I think it was attractive to people.
I think if you take this sport too seriously, you look like an idiot pretty quickly. You know, this is not only is this not, you know, pipe fitting on an oil rig 50 miles offshore, it's also not the NFL where you're going to have CTE live to be 45 and have those kind of issues. This is a sport where people mostly get into it because they love it, and they're pursuing that dream on some level. But everybody who's in it makes a sacrifice of some kind. That's one thing I always try to remember, is that almost everybody who fishes professionally is making a sacrifice of some kind, either financial or with regard to the time they spend with their family and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people don't realize how many of these guys are actually quite wealthy.
Sure.
They're worth millions of dollars.
They come in.
They come in wealthy, and it has nothing to do with fishing. Nothing to do with fishing.
Yeah. Nate, I feel like I'm talking too much. You got anything you want to throw at me? I got about 4 questions still in the back.
No, you're killing it. I love it. Yeah, I guess I was just going to transition maybe a little bit towards like we've talked about forward facing in a little bit, but like, have you seen anything crazy aside from like maybe the Alabama rig or the chatterbait that kind of have blown up like this urchin bait thing has?
I was just thinking about that stuff, Nate. Yeah, I mean, baits blow up every so often, and it's hard to predict what's going to catch everybody's attention versus what's going to kind of slide by the wayside. But what always blows me away is these baits that people say, oh, it's new, it's revolutionary, it's a game changer. Well, game changer is another one of those phrases where I just want to punch somebody.
Oh, dude, come on.
Yeah.
I freaking hate that phrase so much. That Ken, that freaking Ultrex commercial where that dude's like, a game changer. I just want to jump through the screen and just choke him out. I want to put him in a rear naked and make him go to sleep. I hate that crap. Sorry, keep going.
No. What I was thinking was, if you've been around long enough, or if you have just, if you really tried to study a lot of the history of the sport and gone back and looked at some of the older baits, you realize that none of these baits are actually new. The urchin baits, the fuzzy dice baits. There was a bait that a guy named Dan Gapin. He was a writer, and I think he might have had a TV show in the Midwest. He passed away a year or two ago, but he had this jig he called the Ugly Bug, and it had rubber threads going through it and stuff like that. And you could buy the replacement bodies, which would basically be a fuzzy dice. I look at a bait like the chatterbait, which is, one of the more recent ones that's really taken off like crazy. And the chatterbaits, what most of these new baits are, it's really a combination of two old things to make something newish. But the chatterbait is the combination of a Walker Special, which is the blade. There's the Dan Gapin Ugly Bug. And you didn't have to put it on a jig head. You could fish it weightless or whatever. That's a fuzzy dice, isn't it? On some level?
Absolutely it is.
Well, Gapin was making those things decades ago.
Wow.
Decades ago.
Huh.
The chatterbait was a Whopper Stopper Dirty Bird and a Walker Special blade. The Whopper Plopper. There's a lure being made in Wisconsin still to this day that's been in constant production since 1921 called the Roberts Mud Puppy. And if you look at it, you'll see it's a Whopper Plopper.
It is, yeah. Yeah, well, and Larry Dahlberg came from the muskie world. So that, that's who invented it, but he took a muskie type.
And at first he didn't acknowledge that he was borrowing.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think he acknowledged it early on. Later on, he realized he kind of had to.
Yeah.
But all these baits, kind of come from somewhere. And it's just when the Alabama rig, well, they've been trolling wire rigs like that for stripers for 50, 60 years.
Crappies too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Little umbrella rigs for crappie too. Yeah, there's almost nothing that's truly new. But it can be genius to combine two things that are old in a way that hasn't been done before. And most of these things kind of evolve. They rarely just pop up out of nowhere. I've tried to find out who invented the Texas rig. I can't quite find out. I can't quite get there. I get to a late 50s East Texas, but I can't quite. I can tell you that this guy takes credit for it, but I found out that this guy was doing it earlier. So and fishing is like that. Everybody wants to claim credit for it, but very few people can really back it up.
Sure. Yeah.
But I get a big kick. I remember when Jackal came out with the Pompadour, the little crawler bait.
Yeah.
And their press release said Yeah, revolutionary new design.
Yeah.
Well, the Heddon Crazy Crawler was 1938. It's the same bait.
It is absolutely the same bait. The wings, they flip out and they kind of walk. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. But the moron who wrote the press release, and he is a moron, didn't know that because he's a moron and because he doesn't fish and because he doesn't pay attention.
Yeah.
And I hate that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff just bugs me.
Yeah, weird superlative is so common in this game.
Yes, sir. And I get it. I think that's probably not just this game. It's probably every game.
Maybe.
But it's disappointing.
It is.
You know, it's disappointing because you know, I'm no expert on lure history, but I got buddies who are the very best experts on lure history. And if I got a question about something, I call them.
Yeah.
And people will occasionally call me with a question and I try to help them, you know, and there's not enough of that. Instead, somebody'd rather go off half cocked and say something stupid. And then I take great joy in calling them on it.
As you should.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm mean spirited.
And you have the knowledge and the background and the backup to do it. Okay, so really quick.
Yes, sir.
Best bass fishing lure ever.
Whew, plastic worm.
Hard to argue.
How can you argue with that?
I'm a little disappointed you didn't say Ocho. I thought for sure you were going to take
Oversight on my part.
Yeah, it's all right, man. I tried to throw you a softball there.
Now you're making me look bad, like I forgot about the Ocho. How do you forget about the Ocho?
Yeah, the Ocho is a soft plastic worm. So I mean, I guess in a way.
I'm still throwing the Cieto.
Oh wow, you got your own rig over there. That's impressive.
Revolutionary. It's a game changer, Jordan.
It's a game changer. Oh my gosh, that dude. It's an entire commercial where all they have is dudes saying game changer. And then that one guy says it, game changer. I'm like, why are you whispering in your wife's kitchen? Like, be a man. Like, anyway.
This is nothing that a sniper and a high-powered rifle couldn't take care of.
You do. We could make things so much better. Who invented flipping, Ken? Is it D. Thomas, or is he the first guy who got credit for it?
I think it was D. Thomas. You know, D was fishing these tournaments out in the California Delta area, and he was winning a lot with a technique called tule dipping, which did not even involve a reel. It was a big stout cane pole, and he would tie a short length of heavy monofilament, like 100-pound monofilament, and he would dip his jig back in those little pockets behind the tules. We would call them reeds here in America. And he'd catch these fish, yank these big fish out of there and win tournaments. Well, people started to complain, say, hey, that's not even a real rod and reel. Nice. So D put a reel on there, still a cane pole. He wrapped some guides on there, and he basically started doing the same thing. Well, then they said, you can't have a rod over 8 feet. So for every obstruction put in front of him, D. Thomas came up with an answer.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. I knew he had some sort of like rudimentary start to it. I didn't know it was that basic. That's wild.
No, he pretty much evolved the whole thing himself.
Yeah.
And it's let's see, where is it? Here. This is something that's my friend Kent Brown gave me this at the Classic Expo. I had been looking for this for years. This was a little brochure from the 70s, back when flipping was brand new. And I had not been able to track down a copy. My friend Kent Brown got it from D. Thomas's daughter.
No,
brought it to me.
Wow!
So, shout out to my buddy Kent Brown.
Wow! Shout out!
You, Kent.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
I love old printed material like that too. The look of it, the smell of it, the font, the art. It's just so specifically era. You know, it's era specific. Like you see it and you know right away. Like, oh, that's from whatever.
You'd be horrified in my office, Jordan.
I'll probably just be like gawking.
I'm truly surrounded by nothing but paper.
I love that. That's awesome. I even like this isn't even that old. I know you're familiar with this, but the old Fleck weed waiter like spinner baits and stuff.
Yeah, won 3 classics in a row.
Yeah, which it even says on there. Winner of 3 consecutive Bassmaster Classics, champion of spinner baits. All that old stuff, I just think it looks cool. It feels cool. The wording. I showed Nate a picture the other day. I have a Pro Bass magazine. I don't know if you're familiar with that publication.
I sold my first magazine article to Pro Bass magazine.
Oh, that's amazing. That's cool.
Wow.
It was about 1900, I think.
Yeah, I'm not that old. Mine's from 83, I think. But on the back,
about when I did it.
Yeah, that's sweet. On the back cover, it's a Ranger ad. It's a full page Ranger ad. I don't have it on me right now, but the wording, it says like Ranger is highest in resale for fishability, speed, and what was it? What was the word? Attractiveness.
Attractiveness, yeah.
Hell uses the word on a back cover. They probably forked out some dough for that, and they said, "Oh, I know what word we'll use: attractiveness." It's just all that time period specific stuff. I think is so cool.
I'm with you. I have so many magazines. I have thousands and thousands of magazines in my office here with me, and I don't throw them away. I've got a bunch of old Pro Bass magazines, which later became Bassin.
You're right. Yep.
Pro Bass became Bassin, and then Bassin went to hell and became a horrible little publication. Now it's, I think, out of business, but that's a shame because it at one time it was a really cool publication.
Was cool. Yeah. Even the ads back then. This is not even that old, but I shared this. We have in Real World coming out tomorrow. We have an episode with Danny Arbalo from Brazalo Custom Lures, and we're talking buzz baits. And I had this one in my treasure trove. This is 2008 North American Fisherman Buzz Bait magazine.
There you go.
Even that though, like that's not even that old, but you look at that dude's outfit and he looks absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, the wardrobes of pro anglers have changed so much.
Rapala stuff, they've been kind of on the same vibe forever, like with their ads. I kind of dig it. Like they're really simple, like white backgrounds, cool paintings, big red Rapala logo. I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of rad. But all right, let me hit with a couple more questions, Ken. I don't want to be up forever. I know you're an hour ahead. You're sipping coffee, and I don't want to, I don't want your wife to hate us or something. But
I'm enjoying this. Thank you guys for having me.
Dude, get out of here. Thank you, man. I've
been, heck yeah.
Man, if you could snap your fingers and let's just say that forward-facing sonar is not at play, let's say that we'll take that off the table just because why not? And for what it's worth, I appreciate the heck out of your monologue, your diatribe about forward-facing because it was unique. Like you had some really good points about it. It wasn't just like, oh, that's cheating. Oh, you're a douchebag if you like to find them fish on the what, like you had fact, and I really appreciated that. It was a unique take on it. But if you could snap your fingers and change one thing about bass fishing at large, what would it be? Competitive, otherwise, whatever you want.
It would be there are a million organizations out there right now that all say they're trying to grow the sport of bass fishing. And I think there's only one that's actually doing it. It's called Fishing's Future. It's led by a couple of friends of mine named Shane Wilson and Tom Lang. And check out fishingsfuture.org. I would like to see us step up our efforts to bring more people into the sport who are under the age of 12, because if we don't get them early, we don't get them.
Yeah.
We just don't get them. The people who start fishing after age 12, fewer than 10% of them will later buy a license. I'd like to see us try to grow the sport in a meaningful way. And I think that's how to do it. I look at the programs that are out there now, mostly geared to high school and college.
Yep.
They're not growing anything.
Dang, that's a profound response.
Well, and the reason I say that, sorry to go on and on, is because if we don't grow the sport, there's not going to be enough people out there to protect the sport. And we're going to start finding bodies of water that are off limits to angling. And we're going to start finding infrastructure that's not being maintained. Boat ramps that are unusable, no courtesy docks without lights, launch ramps with no restroom facilities. Things like that are already happening in the states that are not seeing decent growth in their fishing, because a lot of the funds that support those kind of efforts survive because they're matching federal funds. And that's exactly the way Wallet Bro and those taxes related to outdoor sports work. You get matching funds from the federal government, or you get funds based entirely upon how many licenses you sell.
Wow.
So we need to grow the sport, or we're going to watch it get worse and worse. Yes, and it even extends to things like management. Because if you think that our game and fish commissions are wildly overfunded, I would encourage you to talk to some of those people.
All right. Yeah, that was great. What do you got, Nate? I saw you brewing something over there.
Man, I keep circling back, like in my noggin anyways, of the fair chase conversation we had earlier.
Yeah.
And were people really using helicopters to fly around and check out lakes back in the day?
Oh, you're talking about Bass Pros before tournaments?
Yeah.
Some of them were a handful. But yeah, guys would sometimes, group up, 3 or 4 of them, hop in a plane. Mostly they were looking for changes in watercolor. It rained 200 miles upstream. What has that done to the river up here? Is it worth me running to, or is it just blown out? That was absolutely happening. Sure.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
That is great. Yeah. Now we can just check it on Omnia water clarity map.
There you go.
So wild. Like,
there's ways to check it out now. It's amazing. And you can check wind direction now on your phone. What you can do with a phone today is outrageous.
Wild, man.
But yeah, that stuff happened.
It's weird that bass fishing is not as big as it could be, should be, when there's so many things around that can make it more enjoyable. Cut back on, like I was saying, Omnia or any kind of good mapping system. You can eliminate so much water so fast for what time of year it is with just a little bit of knowledge and make your day, whether you're fun fishing or fishing a derb or whatever, you can be more efficient, more effective. It just seems like things are stacked in our favor to do well at fishing. And yet, it seems like less and less people are actually doing it. Yeah,
but I guess I don't have a big issue with any of that, because one of the cool things about bass fishing is we all find our own level.
Sure. Yeah.
Whether you want to spend, assuming you have the means, whether you want to spend $150,000 on a bass boat and all the electronics, or whether you want to buy a cane pole and walk down to the creek and catch some grasshoppers on the way, you can enjoy our sport.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us land somewhere in between. I land a whole lot closer to the grasshopper and the cane pole than I do the $150,000 bass boat.
Yeah.
But I love that you can take it as seriously or as lightly as you want. And that's a beautiful thing. And that gives me hope that our sport's going to at least outlast me. Won't have to go that long maybe to outlast me. But I love seeing things like the interest in kayaks and things like that, because
different.
We don't sell a lot of bass boats anymore, but we're selling a lot of kayaks lately.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's a good insight for sure. Nate, do you want to go in a helicopter with me sometime soon?
Yeah, I'd get down with it, I guess.
Yeah. All right.
I'd go for a spin.
Probably buy a really big drone or something. I've seen videos on the old YouTube. What's a record in your opinion, Ken, in bass fishing that will never be broken? And obviously the spot record will be over and over and over again. The smallmouth record, yeah. George Perry's a liar. But what's like
thank you for that, Jordan.
Dude, it's the craziest.
I feel like I'm leading the charge on that, but maybe you're leading the charge.
That and muskie fishing. I don't know if you're familiar with Larry Ray.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
The muskie thing between
it's
Louis Spray and all those other people who have claimed the muskie record through the years. It's insane.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so Larry Ramsell, he's kind of the you of muskie fishing, honestly. Significantly older, incredibly intelligent, and very objective. And he's presented like unequivocal black and white fact to the whatever body that keeps record for muskie stuff. And they looked at it, 2 + 2. You're right, it does equal 4. We're going to keep the record anyway. Oh. Okay, well, great. I mean, just the most scientific, like obviously this dude holding this fish is not 7'9". Otherwise, maybe it would be 60 inches. But anyway, yeah, the whole record, the George Perry thing. If George Perry's fish is the world record, then I'm blacker than Nate. And that's just not really a thing. So
here's the terrible thing about Perry's record. The situation got even worse a couple of years ago when the American Fisheries Society decided to separate the Florida bass from what we traditionally call the northern largemouth. When they separated them, they still kept Perry and Kurita, the Japanese fish, as a tie.
Which
we won't even worry about that right now. But last year, believe it or not, guys, myself and some biologist buddies of mine, we proved that Kurita's fish is a Florida bass. So now Kurita has the Florida bass record at 22.5. But Perry is still considered the northern largemouth record, which is insane. There's no way a northern largemouth can reach that size.
What chance? None.
Yeah.
There is some evidence that no pure northern largemouth can even reach 10 pounds. And that's one of the big unanswered questions right now is, what is the largest ever true 100% northern largemouth ever taken?
Yeah.
There's been a 15.8 out of Massachusetts in 1975, but there's a lot of speculation about that fish,
Of course.
whether it was a Florida bass or what might have been done. But the genetics and is such a hodgepodge right now. It's really kind of troubling.
Yeah. So do you think that record will just never be broken because there's too much gray? There's too much wiggle room? I mean, what is that?
I think that, well, here's some stupid insight into one thing that kind of drives me. In 2005, I helped get David Hayes' world record smallmouth put back in the record book.
Huh? Yeah.
He had been DQ'd in 1995. In 2005, I wrote some stuff in Bassmaster magazine to reestablish him, and IGFA reestablished him as the record.
Your podcast,
That's awesome.
sorry, your podcast, the Big Bass podcast, you did like multiple episodes on that, right?
Yeah, we did 3 on the smallmouth.
Awesome. Yeah, that was freaking awesome. It was so engaging.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope we can get the Big Bass podcast going again at some point.
Me too. Sorry, keep going.
No. And so then last year, me and some biologist friends, Josh Sackmar, Stephen Barden, Brandon Barthel, we got Carita and Perry separated, which is a step in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So now I've impacted 2 of the major world records without ever catching a world record myself. And my goal, guys, is to get Perry knocked out of the record book. Then I will have hit the 3 biggest black bass records in some significant way, and unfortunately never have caught one of them.
Yeah. So can we just ask like the logical questions, right? Like I've always said that if I could go, you know how like Google and these big like new companies, they have just the most nonsensical nomenclatures for jobs. Like this is the director of Vibe Association, or just the stupidest crap, and dudes are getting $200,000 a year for made up titles. I always thought my title at different companies could be the director of logic. So when somebody comes to me and says, hey, there's this guy,
I like that.
Like there's this guy who claims to have caught this fish that's 22.4 or whatever the heck he said it was. Okay, yeah. Oh, do we have any pictures of it? No, there's no pictures. Oh, okay. Well, we do have this one picture that he said was, what did he say that other one was in the Field and Stream? He said it was like 15 and it looks like it was a 4.5 on a good day. I
own that picture.
Do you really?
That picture belongs to me.
Shut up. How?
Well, in 1932, Perry caught that fish, entered it in the Field and Stream contest.
Yep.
And he later sent that picture to the Creek Chub Bait Company. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. No. So he won on a Creek Chub Bait.
Yeah.
And there was no pictures of that fish because Field and Stream didn't require a picture to win their contest. This is back during the Depression.
Sure. People didn't
have camera and stuff like that is tough. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is 2 years later, Perry wins the contest again. But this time he wins it with a 13-pound, 14-ounce fish. And he does have a picture of this fish. He sends it to the Creek Chub Company in exchange for them to send him some baits. And I own that picture. And that's the one you're talking about. It's got his 13-pound, 14-ounce fish sitting on top of a tackle box that is 21 inches long. And this fish is not more than 18 inches. And the picture's right over there. If I was prepared, guys, I would have.
That's a pretty amazing. That's a pretty amazing piece of history. But this is where the director of logic comes in and goes, "Sorry, guys, nope." I
love director of logic.
Yeah, that's something we need. We need a director of logic because that's just baloney. But
that's genius.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll ever happen, but I like it. So is that your take on it though? That's the record that won't be broken?
No. I'll say it this way. I don't think that record will ever be broken, but I believe that record should and perhaps will be disqualified, which would be even better.
Yeah, it really would.
And that's what I'm aiming for. One of these days, I'm going to take an application to the International Game Fish Association, and I'm going to say I would like to appeal that record and and I have evidence to show that I believe will cause you to take it out of the record books. The problem is that I don't necessarily have the best relationship with the IGFA. And so that might be a problem.
We'll just launder your findings. Just feed it to me. I'll go in there with like a little camera and an earpiece, and it'll be like Mission Impossible. You can just feed me stuff, and I'll just go for it.
I'll be hanging outside the door and screaming at the top of my lungs, probably. So I'll be discovered quickly. I get frustrated easily, guys.
Oh, I get it for sure. After you get done with that, you should definitely kind of transition over to the muskie world and attack the Cal Johnson, Louis Spray nonsense. Because you want to talk about those walleye, we got weights and fish. Those two were the original. We got weights and fish because they were literally stuffing car parts in the fish's mouths. It's absolute horseshit, and people still go with it.
I have a couple of books on the world record muskie, and including the one done by this group about 20 years ago who were doing the deep dive into Spray or whoever. And it is fascinating. And on some level, and I think you're alluding to this, Jordan, on some level, the issues and the controversy with the largemouth record are nothing compared to the absolute shenanigans and cons and stuff going on with the muskie.
They could be movies, honestly. I can't remember which one it is, Louis Spray or Cal Johnson, but one of them, full blown, paid some dudes because he owned a resort up here. Because I'm in northern Wisconsin. Hayward's about 2 hours north of me, which is where all this went down. Paid some dudes on the dock to stuff the fish with old car parts and whatever. They came out and admitted to it many, many, many years later. And then after that, again, I don't remember which fella it was, Cal Johnson or Louis Spray, but as he was on his deathbed, he had them put on his tombstone, holder of 3 muskie world records.
Yeah, that was Louis Spray. And he even had it as a little poem. Here lies Louis Spray, 3 record muskies in his day.
Yeah. I'm like, that
was the fascinating thing about Spray is as soon as somebody would break his record, a week later, he would have it back.
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
And he was allegedly fishing like Native American reservation waters and stuff like that. And apparently the man could catch a record just anytime he wanted.
Yeah. And it always seemed to coincide when business was dipping at his bar. And then all of a sudden he'd catch this record, he'd have it on display at the bar and it'd bring in all this business. It was just really good, what do you call that? Coincidence over and over and over.
And wasn't he muscling people into supporting his record claims by saying he was all mobbed up and stuff?
Yep. They said there was ties there to what's his face? Al Capone, because Al Capone had places in Hayward as part of the whole business. And it could literally be a movie. Like, it's absolutely hysterical. And again, the director of Logic would step in and be like, this is so stupid. Like,
love the director of Logic thing. But
it's not even 2 + 2 = 4. It's like 2 + 2 =? Like, it's just absolutely nonsense. There's no, and the fact that these like self-respecting organizations are like, yeah, we're gonna leave it. How can you possibly leave it? Anyway.
Yeah, it does a disservice to the sport.
It really does. It makes us all look like a bunch of boobs. Like, we're trying to be legit, and it makes us look stupid.
As bad as Perry is, and I think he's a fraud and a liar and a cheat, Louis Spray, wow, next level.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's George Perry on steroids. But so Dottie, that was a Florida strain, yes?
Dottie was a Florida strain fish, of course, in Lake Dixon, California. That's the one that Mike Long caught at 19 3/4 or something, and Mac Weekly finally got it at 25-1. Jed Dickerson caught it at 21 something. Yeah.
That picture of Mac Weekly holding it out, where you can see the dot on the gill plate. That thing, does that matter?
Well, it's Mike Wynn holding it, but Mac Weekly caught it.
I remember the photo. What
guys? Yeah.
Dickerson,
Weekly, and Wynn all worked in the casino industry, and which is obviously late night stuff. And they would go fishing and try to catch the world record during the day. And they Weekly snagged that fish, unfortunately.
Yeah. And so, do you know the details on that? Because I was literally like 2 days ago. My middle boy Vinny and I were watching some of the big bass catches over the years and blah blah blah. And sees that one, and he's like, it's 25 pounds. Why is that not the record? And I said, because apparently the bass swam over it. It was clear water. They thought she mouthed it. He set the hook, hit her in the head or whatever the heck it was. And he's like, well, how do they know that he hooked in the head? Did he admit it? Do you know the details on how that came out?
I got some details I can share with you. The day before, those guys had been out there, and there was a guy fishing for that fish from the public dock on Lake Dixon, which is only like 75 acres.
Yeah, it's little.
And so this guy's after that fish, he's fishing from the dock, and to their credit, the other three guys, Dickerson, Weekly, and Wynn, they didn't try to move in on him, although they did offer him thousands of dollars to step away and let them try to catch the fish.
Crazy.
Which he refused because he had some idea, hey, they're offering me X $1,000. Maybe I should just keep fishing. He didn't catch the fish. So the next day, on a lot of these public waters in California, they're closed at night. They're fenced. They're closed. You can't even put your own boat out there. You have to rent a boat, and you bring your own trolling motor and battery and stuff like that. And so the next day, guess who's first in line? It's Weekly and Wynn, and I think Dickerson was with him that day too. So they go out there, and now they're on this fish, and they're fishing, artificials, and very popular thing obviously is a light colored jig, so you can see it, put it right on the bed. And apparently Weekly turned away at one moment, looked back, didn't see his jig, set the hook. It's in the faceplate or something of the fish. He lands the fish. A lot of people watching from the dock at this point, so he doesn't even have an opportunity, not saying he would have taken it, but he doesn't have an opportunity to say it wasn't foul hooked.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In California, you're not allowed to submit a foul hooked fish for a record. And IGFA says before you can submit a record with the International Game Fish Association, you must obey all state or regional or national regulations. So he was shut out.
Okay.
He was still thinking about submitting it as a record for a while, but decided not to. And he did release the fish. So that fish was later caught. Well, it was later found dead.
Yeah.
But Mike Long told me he found the fish dead a year later or something, and it had lost a lot of weight. These fish are, that fish was like 14 years old when it was found dead and aged. But these fish, like us as human beings, we have a peak and then we start to decline.
Yeah. She was still high teens though, right? Even dead.
Yeah, even dead, she was still high teens. I think maybe 17 pounds, something like that. Yeah.
That's a crazy story. I mean, that's
wild.
Yeah, I didn't realize that he laid into it with so many other people watching. That does kind of change the entire dynamic of it.
Yeah, there were a lot of people there, and there of course is video of the fish being weighed and so forth. I'm sure you guys have seen that, but yeah, who knew they got that big, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I never realized the lake was that small, like 75 acres. That's crazy.
Little. Yeah, and crystal clear.
A lot of those legendary, especially the big bass lakes in California, which is where most of the trout got stocked.
Right.
A lot of those are smaller. Castaic, Casitas, those are a couple thousand acres. And most of them are closed at night, and they're closed 3 or 4 days out of the week. And the guys who are serious, back in the day when the record chase was hot and heavy and they were stocking a lot of trout in these waters, the guys would get in line. They would pay teenagers to sit in their rigs and all night. And so they'd be there first thing in the morning when the lake opened.
Back when they used to call it the $1 million fish or whatever.
Well, there was an organization called the Big Bass Record Club, started by a car dealer in Tampa, not far from me, named Mickey Owens. I was actually on the board of governors of this fine institution.
That's cool.
At one point, there was an $8 million bounty on Perry's world record.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh. I always thought the $1 million fish was just sort of like colloquial, like, oh, it's probably worth that in endorsements and whatever. I didn't know there's actually like a note out there for it.
There was a bounty on it. There was an insurance policy backing it up. And people want to say that, what difference does it make about Perry and his fraud? Perry costs some people a lot of money. A lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Because if his fish hadn't been the world record and Bob Krupe had weighed in, a fish that weighed a little over 22 pounds. Maybe he'd have been the world record, and there might have been a bounty on that fish, and maybe Mac Weekly breaks that record. But anyway, there was a lot of money to be made on a fish like that. Now, that fish would have been worth a lot more alive than dead. Maybe the most money you could make on that fish would be to sell it to Bass Pro Shops. I don't know. Right. And obviously, a fish like that is worth more if Bill Dance catches it than if one of the three of us catch it. You know, if you have the apparatus behind you to promote it, you're going to do a lot better. But I tell you this, guys, here's my advice to you. If you catch a world record, just remember you caught it on a prototype lure you made yourself.
Yeah.
Do not show it to anybody.
Yeah, don't show anybody. That's for sure. Yeah.
It might look an awful lot like a shad wrap, and it might even say Rapala on it, but it's a prototype that you made yourself.
Yeah, I just wrote that on there.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like good advice.
You're handy that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know, man. It's like 2 hours in. I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to talk to us. Nate, do you have anything else you want to run past the bass fishing historian before we let him get out?
No, I think that wraps up about most of the questions I had for sure. He absolutely killed it as usual. Yeah,
you're too kind. I really appreciate the chance to be on with you guys. Tackle and Taco is a great show, and an honor to be with you. And when Nate shows up, I feel like I've made it. I've arrived. I feel.
I appreciate it.
I'm no longer. Well, maybe I'm not first class yet, but I'm moving up. I'm getting.
Thank
you, Nate.
That has on people. Yeah.
Hey, try.
Ken, thank you so much for jumping on, brother. Everybody, if you're listening, watching, whatever, as we said earlier, make sure you check out Bass After Dark. I never put it together until right now. Well, not right now, but like an hour ago. Inch for inch, pound for pound. I didn't realize that you got that from Henschel originally. That's pretty cool.
All that from Henschel. We say inch for inch and pound for pound, the most illuminating show in bass fishing.
Yeah, what you got right out of the Book of Black Bass or whatever. That's awesome.
Sure. I'm getting ready to start another channel.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep the Big Bass podcast going until they put me in a body bag, maybe. But
yeah,
get ready to start one, guys, called the Bass Vault, which is going to be like 10 minutes long, just some quirky little history thing.
Oh, that'll be sweet.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's rad.
I just think something like this, not just because it's our show, like everybody should listen to this show, but I think where people can lean into interesting historical, whatever thing they're into. Like one of the podcasts I listen to, I don't do it every day, but there's a podcast called, it's by Noiser. It's called History Daily. So today is Monday, May 11th. So they'll go back through the annals of history and say on Monday, May 11th of 1723, this occurred or whatever. And it's 15, 20-minute bite-sized chunks, but it's just interesting as heck. Like it's just fun to listen to. And if you do that with bass fishing, boy, I'll be all in.
I wrote it down, Jordan, so I'm going to check that out. Yeah, there's a few podcasts I listen to, but a lot of them are not bass fishing podcasts. I just admire some of the ones that have really good sound or just a nice tone to them, well put together. And I'm not sophisticated enough or techie enough to do that for myself, but we do the best we can.
Yeah, you do
have a lot of fun with some of these other things.
Yeah, you guys kill it. Brian the Carpenter is super funny and like highly dorky, engaging. Like he reminds me of, I don't know, in sports, I don't know if you ever heard of the Dan Patrick Show.
Oh yeah.
Rated now though, but Stu Gotts, like Brian the Carpenter is Stu Gotts, like funny in his own unique, dry, weird timing way. I think he works so well as like a co-host, producer, whatever the heck he is.
Thank you for saying dorky and weird timing way, because first of all, if I tell him you called him dorky, you might want to lock your doors extra tonight. But weird timing. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, we'll end there. Ken, thank you again, brother. Appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Heck yeah, thank you. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
All right, so that was the guy. That was the dude. That was the one and only Ken Duke. We're at like 2 hours right now, and I could absolutely sit here and talk for another hour. I wanted to ask him about Jay Ellis. I wanted his opinion on Jay Ellis because I feel like he's one of the. Everybody knows he's great. Everybody knows he was amazing, but in my opinion, he could have been one of the guys. And one of the things he said that I think could have been brought up in the forward facing conversation too is that Jay Ellis is one of the few guys who, not just on our show, but on other podcasts, I've heard him say things to the effect of talent in regards to fishing. I think a lot of people think you could just pick up a rod and reel and go do it. Maybe, maybe you can, but like, no matter how much I practice basketball, I will never be as good as Allen Iverson, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, whomever, because not only hard at it, but they're naturally talented for it. And Jay Ellis always said that, and I thought that was really interesting. I don't know. I wanted to talk to Ken about that, but maybe we'll have him on again because I would love to talk to him another time.
Yeah, no, he's always an amazing conversation. I think it was him and Terry last time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That with the Big Bass podcast.
Yeah,
but yeah, just such engaging information. Just like if you're into bass fishing and you don't, follow Bass After Dark or Ken Duke, like
you're tripping.
You're sleeping on the game for sure.
You are absolutely tripping. And the cool thing is too, not to toot his horn too much, but not everybody can sort of amalgamate good information with entertaining enough to make people stay engaged, if you follow me. Like, I can rattle off fact all day long if I want to. Like, it's 2020. I can, although it's not unequivocal, but I can chat GPT the living poop out of just about anything and sound real smart.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can pull some stuff up, whatever. You bet, oh man, he really knows his stuff. But when you start combining fact with engaging delivery, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like Ken knows everything about bass fishing, but he's also funny, and he's also, it's in his craw. Like, it's not pulled up off of a webpage. He cares so much about it. And I don't know. I think he's a great human being to have in the fishing industry. I think he's a gem, and it was fun talking to him, man. I think it was just awesome. So make sure you check out Bass After Dark. Hopefully he does fire back up the Big Bass podcast. If you've never listened to that, I know the episodes are still out there. They haven't recorded any in a long time that I know of. But even the one he's talking about the smallmouth record, I didn't know it was 3. I thought it was 2, but it's a 3 episode. I mean, you want to talk about deep dive? It's a full blown deep dive on the smallmouth record. And it's just engaging from start to finish. I mean, it's freaking awesome. Have you listened to that one, Nate?
I think I've listened to the first one of the smallmouth one, but like the largemouth, the George Perry stuff, like that was crazy to me. I listened to that stuff, and yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Awesome person to have in the industry. Real quick, I mean, I know, again, podcast world, this is a different day, different time. How's your mom's day, Nate?
Mother's Day is always great. I just do whatever I'm told and then some. So yeah,
that's what it is. Indentured servitude day.
Absolutely, yeah. So woke up early, cleaned the house, spick and span.
Okay.
Get everything set up and just make her life easy as possible.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do with my wife too, man. Like, really real talk, not to be like fake or whatever. My wife is the freaking best. She's beautiful and smart and loves fishing and shoots deer, and I could at least give her one day where I'm nice to her. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So the place where I work, the owners of it, the lady who's one of the 2 owners of my job also runs a place called Sparrow Boutique. Shout out Sparrow.
Shout out.
If you're looking it up on the interwebs, it's like SPARREAUX. I think, just to be different, which is tricky but kind of dope at the same time. But it's a really cool, like, home vintage store boutique type place, because they have stuff that's brand new, and then they have stuff that Molly, the owner, has actually like dug into the troves of like thrift shops and whatever and restored and brought in, and it sits right next to the new stuff, and you honestly can't tell the difference. Like, it's so sick. But anyway, I literally told her, I was like, hey, I want to spend this much money. Can you just pick out some stuff that would be really dope for my wife? And she was like, yeah, absolutely, Lola's awesome. Like, what is she into? What is she like? And I kind of talked her through it, and it was awesome. So we got this vintagey trophy that says trophy wife on the plaque on the bottom with like a little like angel with his hands up. Got her this really nice smelling lotion that has like magnesium in it, so it helps you like go to sleep. And boys built this 115 3/8-inch long flower box to mount to the front of the house, and then mounted it up full of soil and flowers and whatever. Went to her parents' house for dinner. Did a pulled pork for about 11 and a half hours. If anybody's listening to this and does barbecue, you probably already know this, but barbecue, sort of like bass fishing, it's sort of like an every time you're experimenting, you're changing a little bit. I can't not try different things every time I barbecue. Are you similar, Nate, or you just go the same thing every time?
I try to keep it pretty consistent, but I would say that there's definitely definitely avenues in which I, veer a little bit here or there.
Okay.
So
If I had the best pulled pork I've ever had in my life, if I did, and I did it with olive oil as a binder. If you don't know what that is, it's literally just exactly what it sounds like. It binds seasoning and stuff to the meat, so you can rub olive oil on it. Some people will do mayonnaise, which I think is weird. Some people will do yellow mustard, which isn't weird because it works really well, and it actually ends up not doing anything for the flavor, but it actually provides some color with your seasonings. Anyway, if I did olive oil as a binder and then did salt and pepper, and it was the best pulled pork I ever had in my life, next time I'm not doing olive oil and salt and pepper. I just can't. I have to F around and whatever. Anyway, so this time we did pulled pork, and I did a really peppery, I can't remember what the mesh count was, 20 mesh, 30 mesh, a thicker black pepper base on the yellow mustard on the pork rub, or on the pork shoulder, the butt roast, and then did my seasoning on top of that. And I got such a darker bark this time, almost black bark on it, almost briskety bark, which I don't usually end up with. It's usually more dark brown and reds and what paprika, but this had the best bark for, like I said, I think it was about 11 hours. I smoked it started off at 200 with super smoke on the Traeger, then went to 275. And another little tip I found out that I stole from Franklin Barbecue in Austin, Texas. I don't know if you ever do this, Nate, and maybe I'm just late to the party, but I put a pan in the smoker with water in it.
Oh, the water pan, yeah.
You ever do that?
I have. I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to do it all the time, especially when I had the old the cabinet smokers back in the day before I had the pellet grill. So
yeah, the skinnier verticaler ones.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So I would do it literally every time with that, and I've probably done it a handful of times with the pellet smoker, but not many.
I feel like it makes sense because it's not like it's boiling. You're running the pulled pork. I'm doing it 275, but it's just making it a little bit of steam, and you want more because it's smoking, so it's it's trying to dry it out, but you're trying to cook it slow. Anyway, but it was awesome, super super good. Brought that over to her parents' house. It was awesome because her mom tore into it, had thirds or something. When you make a long cook, do something that you really put into, and somebody actually likes it, that's a good feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So shout out to the moms out there. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Lola. Shout out to Grandma Dee, Lola's mom. Happy Mother's Day. Legitimately happy Mother's Day. Moms
absolutely.
Respect your mom. Show her some love. Text her. Call you love her. Call her you love her. Call her and tell her you love her. And that's it. What else you got, Nate? You want to get out of here?
Yeah. I'm ready. I'm ready for bed. This was awesome.
So good, dude.
It's been a long time since we've had a long one like this. So
yeah, 2 hours. But I feel like it's a really engaging 2 hours besides when I'm talking. Everything else has been really good. Just listen to Ken. Just go.
Go. Heck yeah.
He kept on saying, "Oh, I'm sorry I'm going for so long." I'm like, dude, please. This is literally why I'm on here. This why I want you on the show. But that's it, man. Check us out, tackleandtacos.com. Please make sure to follow us on YouTube. Please make sure to give us a review on either Spotify or Apple Music. Again, that actually helps us, helps grow the show. If you engage with us on social media, unless we just somehow miss it, we respond to every single comment or every single message we get. We love talking to people. Last week, some random dude hit me up on, or hit us up on Tackle and Tacos and was like, "Hey, are you guys a fishing guide in Wisconsin?" And I was like, no. He's like, "Oh, well, I Googled Tackle and Taco," I Googled fishing guides in Wisconsin and Tackle and Tacos came up. And I was like, oh. And they started telling me where he's going to be. And I'm like, well, actually, one of my buddies, Michael Mudgett, shout out Michael Mudgett.
Shout out.
I was like, he's a guide. Here's his phone number. He's like, oh, sweet. So, I mean, I love that kind of stuff. I love connecting the dots and meeting new people and whatever. So make sure you follow us at Tackle and Tacos. Nate, give us the tagline. Let's go.
That's it. Remember, positivity is worth the effort. Peace.
Catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.